So in this one, we're going to look at 8b. So the low is write a Python function called total minutes, which takes two parameters, hours and minutes. It then returns the total minutes. Okie dokie. So actually, let's copy that, because then obviously we can use that as our test. So we're going to define a function called total minutes. We're going to take hours and minutes. This is a really easy one. And then we just got to return the total minutes. So that's just hours times 60 plus minutes. There's 60 minutes in an hour. Really easy one. Straight off the bat. Get one done. Python, I call this 8b. And there you go. Prints 20. Why did I print M? That should be time. Time equals that. There we go. It prints 200. Excellent. I better change that on the website to print time. There we go. Right, that was quite an easy one. Medium. Write a Python function called max number, which takes a single parameter, an array or list of numbers, then returns the maximum number found. So let's copy in our sort of test. So it was called max number. So we define it as max number. It takes one parameter, which is a list of numbers. So I'm going to call it, I call it number list. Num list. There we go. Right. So I need to loop through num list and find the maximum number. So the trick is, now the first trick is, it doesn't really matter in this, but you might want to check if there's a number in the list. Because if the length of num list is 0, we might want to turn something like empty, because otherwise the rest of the things we're going to do are going to crash. Anyway, so we'll put max equals, and you always set, I can't use max, I'll do m. I'll use it down below. I'll use max num equals, and we set it to the first option in the list. It's 0. And now what we're going to do is loop through the list. So for I in range length of max num. Okay, so we're going to loop through length for max num, and then if the num list I is greater than max num equals num list I. We actually could start this at 1 and not 0 because it's already set to 0, but I won't bother. And then at the moment, so then return max num, and then we should find, that gives us the int has no length. What am I doing? Num list. Oh, not that. Should have been range of length of num list. The list, not max num. That's silly. Here we go. 13. So if you want an explanation of this, so we're sending in the array or list into there. That goes into num list. First of all, we check if it's 0, because the thing is, if we didn't check if it was blank, so that's going to say empty. If we didn't check if it was blank, it'll crash now, because it's trying to access the thing that doesn't exist. That's why I've got to check if it's blank. But I mean, it might not worry about that in the exam. So we set the max number to the first one, 3. Then we loop through the length of num list. So the length of num list we're sending in is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's going to do a loop from 0 to 7. So we check if the 0 one is greater than it. Well, it's not, because it is it. Then we go to that one. Is that bigger than 3? And so on and so forth. And you keep checking. If you do find one that's bigger, you set max num to that value and then move on to the next one. So there you go. Right, cool, let's copy this in. Do we wrap text? No. All gold. Let's okay, I'm going to put hash at the front, so okay, make special secure boxes. Employees can earn a holiday based on how long they've worked at PCube. For the first 2 years, they get 10 days, and they get 0.5 years for every additional year after 2. So, right, it's going to take one parameter. Create a function, holiday days. It takes one parameter, years worked. Okay. So, this has got 2 steps. It's if it's less than 2, or less than or equal to 2, you do one formula, which is times 10, number of years times 10. So if years worked is less than or equal to 2, we're going to return years worked times 10. Because they get 10 for every year they've worked under 2. So you work 2 years, you get 20 days. You worked 1 year, you get 10 days. So let's just test that. We'll go D equals holiday days, and we'll do 2. Print D. Did you mean holiday days? I did. 20. If I do 1, I should get 10. So then the problem is, what if you didn't do that? Okay, so we do else. I don't have to add, we're doing else. But actually there's no reason to do an else here, because we're doing a return. If we did execute this if, we would be quitting the function here. So any code after this is technically an else. Because if we get to this line, we didn't run this. But anyway, I'll do else because it looks nicer. Else, we've got to do some math. So I'm going to do answer equals. Now, this is the thing, you've got to do some maths. So they got 20 from before. Then it's an extra 5 days for each year worked after the 2. So we need to do 0.5. Let's do that. Plus 0.5. Yes, we do. 0.5 times. So actually, let's do 2 variables. Let's do extra days equal extra years equal years worked minus 2. So if we do 4 years, extra years is going to be 2. So then we return 20, because we're going to get a 20 for the first 2 years, plus extra years times 0.5, because we get half for every extra year afterwards. I want to put holidays there. I don't know how to put holidays. Okay, so if we do 3, we should get 20.5. If we do 5, we should get 21.5. There we go. 50, God knows. 44, take his word for it. But let's have a think about that. That's right, because after we have 48 years at half years. So that is 24. And then we add on the 2 from earlier. The 20 from earlier, sorry. Because you get 20 just working 2 years. Right, so that is that one done.